I'm here with my mother-in-law Kathy. Was it yesterday?
It was.
We hiked the approach trail up to the top of Mount Springer and then down to the parking lot. And before I get going tomorrow, they drop me off at the parking lot. She's going to ask me a few questions, just basic stuff about the trail and about the hike. A lot of questions that I've gotten from a lot of other people. So I'm just putting this up, and she's going to help me out with that. So whenever you're ready, Kathy.
So I'm wanting to know, what is the weather going to be like when you start out?
So tomorrow it's going to be good. It's going to be kind of a partly cloudy, sunny day. Should be great temperature. Sometime in day 2 or 3, though, we're expected to get some rain, maybe even some thunderstorms. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But it's going to happen at some point on the trail.
So when it rains and you walk through that water with your shoes, they get wet. So what are you going to do about wet shoes?
I'll dry them out when I can, or otherwise I'll just have wet feet for a little bit. The key, though, is to try to take a break during the day, either in a shelter or somewhere else. Take your socks off, dry out your feet, and then at night I have sleeping clothes that'll stay dry throughout the whole day. I have them down in my pack liner in my pack, including sleeping socks, so at night my feet will be dry. But during the day, sometimes your feet are going to get wet, and you just have to deal with that. And there's actually an important choice in footwear, and making sure you don't get waterproof shoes. And the reason for that is that water's going to get in, or sweat from your feet is going to make them wet, and then they're impossible to dry out. So I don't have waterproof shoes, so when they do get wet, they'll dry out faster.
Okay. So how far are you going to be going each day, and are you going to a particular place, like a shelter? How far apart are those shelters?
Yeah. Well, on the hike yesterday, you saw Black Gap Shelter, which is just before the top of Mount Springer. There are shelters like that every 5 to 25 miles along the trail, and at every shelter, as you saw, there's like a campsite with a fire ring, a picnic table, a shelter, and an outhouse they call a privy. So a lot of hikers will use those points as waypoints, so they'll hike from shelter to shelter along the way, and I intend to do something like that.
Now, I know you've got some rechargeable stuff. Mm-hmm. Do those shelters have charging facilities or not?
No.
Where do you find those?
I think 1 or 2 of them may, but the vast majority don't. And I'm sorry, what was the last
Where
part?
do you find those?
Find
a place to charge up.
So the trail goes through towns or close to towns every 2 to 5 days. Mm-hmm. So every 2 to 5 days I'll be staying in a hostel or a hotel. So in a 7-day period, once or twice a week, I'll be in a hostel or hotel or somewhere that has power, so I can recharge my phone, recharge my battery pack, kind of get everything all squared away, get a resupply box from Sandy, and just kind of get everything situated, do laundry, take showers, that sort of stuff. So you can, if stuff is wet, I'll be able to dry everything out.
So is the trail well marked? I mean, is there a possibility of you getting lost or off the trail?
The trail is very well marked. So every 20 to 100 yards or so, sometimes a little longer, a little shorter, there's a white blaze on the tree, and that lets you know that you're on the trail. The trail is also very well used, so the path that you're walking on, like yesterday when we were on the approach trail, you saw that it was pretty hard to get off track. Also, in addition to that, I'll be taking the AT guide with me, which is a very popular AT guide that has a lot of waypoints and information on it for throughout your day. I'll also be using an app called Gut Hooks app, which is a newer thing that started in the last few years, and it can actually take advantage of the GPS in your phone, even when it's in airplane mode, and it can let you know where you are on the trail. And so if you've gone off trail, you can actually see how far off trail you are and how to get back. So,
and you will take that with you wherever you go.
Wherever
right?
I go. And then in an emergency, just in case, I also have a spot device, which I can hit an SOS button and get the authorities sent out to me. And I can also check in with family and friends with that by hitting a couple buttons on it that will send some custom messages if all else fails, I can't get through.
Good. So what are you doing to protect yourself from bears? I'm a little concerned about the bears.
A little concerned about the bears. Well, I'll be hanging my food, just like everyone else. So there's a bear bag, 50 feet of line. There's a particular technique that you can hang it. Generally supposed to hang it about 150, 200 feet away from where you are and not in the direction of other people. So if bears do smell the food, they'll come and they'll mess with the food and they won't mess with the camp. There's other things you can do in there, but generally speaking, the bears will leave you alone. If you see them while hiking, the real danger is the food at night. There's also bear boxes at a lot of shelters, which are these big metal boxes that you can put all the food in that are generally placed about 200 feet away from the shelters, so bears can't get in.
So you definitely do not eat in your hammock, correct?
Absolutely not, yeah.
Okay, good. So when you get to a place where you're going to set up your hammock, are you hoping to do this before it gets dark? Or are you going to try to go a little farther in the dark? And
generally speaking, hopefully I can set up camp before it gets dark. But if I can't, I got to hike later in the night. I have a great headlight that a very great person standing right next to me gave me for Christmas this past year. So it's the Black Diamond Spot. So that'll, if I have to set up in dusk or when it does get fully dark, I'll be able to do that. But hopefully I'll be able to set up when it's still daylight out.
so if you go to a place and you're still hiking and you pass your shelter and you're not ready to stop yet, but you can't quite make it to the next shelter, I mean, is it a possibility that you would just set up someplace along the way?
Yep, they call that stealth camping. And the objective with that is to be far enough, you have to get far enough off the trail so your camp couldn't be seen on the trail.
Which
so
you will take your little
take
map
a
with you.
map with me.
Okay.
And that's basically so people don't use your campsite over and over again and it becomes another, impacted campsite along the trail. That'll only happen in rare circumstances. I'll generally, if I think I can't get to the next shelter, I'll probably stop for the day at the shelter that I'll be heading to. But before I begin each day, I'll have a primary, point A that I'm looking to hike to, however many miles it happens to be for that day. But I'll also have a plan B, or plan C, both short of that shelter and past that shelter, depending on how the day goes, or if there's weather, or I just get tired, or I get there early and I feel like I have a few extra hours to get to the next shelter. Because sometimes the shelters are pretty close together. Sometimes they're much further apart, so it really just kind of depends.
So how about bugs, and especially ticks and brown recluse spiders and maybe even snakes and stuff like that?
So all of my clothing has been insect shielded, which is a company, you can check it out at insectshield.com. And I sent my clothes to them, and they commercially treated my clothing. So it'll last the life of the garment, or they say up to 70 washings, like full washings, with the insect shield repellent on it, which is a permethrin treatment, which is good for black flies, ticks, mosquitoes, a few other things. As far as the spiders and stuff goes, those are just, you have to kind of watch out for those. I also have a bug net on my hammock, so when I'm sleeping, I'll be completely protected from any creepy crawlies that'll be crawling around. And then snakes and everything else, you just have to kind of keep an eye out for, just like with the bears. Fortunately, rattlesnakes warn you when they're nearby. Copperheads are a little different, but that's just part of the experience. Just kind of
now the stuff that you have on your clothing, what is that? Will that have any effect on you? Does that?
No.
I mean, is that safe?
It's the same stuff that the Army uses. It's the same stuff that a lot of other people do. Now, there's some conflicting opinions on that. There's some people that just don't like chemicals and anything. I thought it would be better to treat my clothing than putting bug spray on myself every day and putting that chemical directly on my skin. I do have some backup bug spray if things get really bad, and I have a head net that I can use if things get really bad as I'm hiking. But I thought it'd be better to treat my clothing with this chemical that has been proven very safe. It's FDA approved and should be fine.
And if you do get ticks, you have some way to get them out safely?
Yes, I am carrying fine tip tweezers to help pull the ticks off by the head, which I fortunately have a lot of experience with, having 3 dogs.
Yes. Well,
and I've even had to do it on myself a couple times. So.
Well, and your new haircut will help too.
And my new haircut will help with the checking a tick check, absolutely.
You guys are at like 9 minutes now.
Okay.
Last question?
Last question. Can't think of anything.
No, what are you gonna miss the most?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
I'm sorry?
What are you gonna miss the most?
Well, my wife and my dogs. That's what I'm gonna miss the most.
I was thinking like food, but showers.
No, I like
I'm
the
actually
idea.
okay with missing that.
I
At
like
least
the
right
idea.
now.
I
At
like
least
the
right now.
idea you're going to miss her the most. I like that. That's good.
Well, if you have any more questions, you can always leave them in the comments below this video.
Okay.
And hopefully I'll get to them maybe in another Q&A further down the
Okie
trail or
dokie.
something, okay?
Sounds good.
All right.